¿Qué tal? Muy buenas tardes. Tengo aquí un poco de lío porque me acaban de pasar esto hace unos instantes. Entonces voy a hacer una lectura, intentaré que sea dramatizada para que tenga un poquito más de aquello, pero a ver. Aquí estamos. Bueno, bienvenidos primero a todos y a todas al evento de esta tarde, que es justamente con nuestro Goya Internacional de 2026, Susan Sarandon, ya lo sabéis todos. Nos acompaña el día antes justo de recoger el reconocimiento que con tanto amor y con tanto cariño le damos sus colegas españoles. Bienvenida, Susan Sarandon.
Gracias. Wow. Gracias.
Bueno, con una trayectoria que no solo ha marcado la historia del cine, sino también la conciencia de muchas generaciones a lo largo de tus años de trabajo, de espectadores y espectadoras. Susan Sarandon es una actriz que ha habitado personajes inolvidables y que forman parte de nuestra memoria.
I break every electronic device that ever comes in my path. Is that better now? Let's see.
Retomo. Susan Sarandon, tú eres una mujer que has creado personajes en ocasiones muy complejos, sensibles, duros, fuertes, muy cambiantes, muy complejos, ¿no? Luminosos y contradictorios, pero también muy humanos. ¿Lo ves? No, no te llega.
But it sounds fantastic.
No sé si a mí tampoco me llega, en la traducción.
Did I break it? We'll be right back. Commercial break. I see some people that were here before. Yeah.
Es un intensivo, un intensivo.
You're checking to see if I say the same thing both times, I know.
Esperemos que las preguntas sean distintas, ¿no?
Da, 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 da. Oh. The hero.
¿Yo?
Isn't this exciting? Yes, I can hear you. There you are.
Fantástico. Ya. Yo he puesto en 1, es que estaba en 0 y no sé. No. ¿Ya escucha? Sí, sí. Ok. Pues, retomo. ¿Ah?
I'll come in.
Decía que tienes una trayectoria a lo largo de tus años que ha marcado mucho la historia del cine, pero no solo eso, sino también la conciencia de varias generaciones de espectadores y espectadoras que han seguido tus películas. Susan Sarandon es una actriz que ha habitado los personajes, muchos personajes inolvidables, que forman parte de nuestra conciencia y de nuestra memoria emocional. Mujeres complejas, luminosas, duras también, a veces contradictorias, pero profundamente humanas. A mí, en una actuación, la humanidad creo que es esencial en cualquier tipo de actuación. Ella es ganadora, voy a hacer un poquito de resumen de una presentación breve. Ya sé que quieres que luego te pregunten ellos, no yo. O sea que tranquila, va a ser muy, muy leve. Es ganadora de un Oscar a la mejor actriz protagonista por Pena de muerte. Todo esto ya lo sabéis, pero lo repito. 5 nominaciones a los premios de la Academia de Hollywood y 9 a los Globos de Oro, y entre otros muchos reconocimientos, ¿no? Bueno, películas como Thelma y Luis, El cliente, Las brujas de Eastwick, disculpa mi acento, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, Atlantic City, El ansia, que fue una película que me fascinó, bueno, Quédate a mi lado. Pero hoy no celebramos solamente una filmografía extraordinaria, celebramos una manera de entender el trabajo, de entender el oficio. En el aniversario de los 40 años de los premios Goya, es un honor recibir y escuchar a Susan Sarandon en Barcelona, en diálogo directo con el público que la ha acompañado durante décadas.
Gracias.
Bueno. Sí, como decía, teníamos algunas preguntas preparadas, pero nos ha llegado que tu interés principal es que las preguntas te las hagan los compañeros y compañeras del público. Pero sí que quería preguntarte algo, y es, teniendo en cuenta cómo está en estos momentos la humanidad, el caos que se está apoderando un poco de toda la sociedad, ¿qué crees que puede aportar el cine, el artista dentro del cine, para intentar reparar o aliviar o curar de alguna manera todo lo que está sucediendo, revertir de alguna forma esto?
I think that storytellers are very, very important, have been very important throughout cultures, throughout history. From the very beginning, the societies that have lasted all had storytellers, had magic, had people who set the imagination on fire, who put forward tales of hope and courage. And I think that our job is to give people who see our stories the opportunity to understand and accept and learn from people and stories that they wouldn't normally be able to be part of. I know for me, as an actor, I am lucky enough to have so many incarnations in one lifetime. And it's kind of an enforced compassion, because when you play a character that you think is so different than who you are, you find that you need and feel and want and hurt in ways that you never thought you could. And I feel that we need more and more of that as we become more and more separated. And that in order to heal, in order to accept, in order to be curious, that is the power of film. And I just hope that, I wish that it was still possible in the United States to see films from other countries. When corporations started taking over all the little cinemas that used to show films from all over and turned them into these, you know, as corporations do, into these massive cinemas, we lost so much. I'm lucky because I live in New York, and in New York I can find foreign films. And of course, streaming, you can find foreign films. But I'm sure I don't know even a tiny bit of the films that come out of Spain or Egypt or Ireland, or, you know, we just don't have access to films. But I believe in storytelling and to go into a dark theater. And I hope people still go to theaters and don't just watch it on television, because sometimes it's so important to be able to see and also be in the quiet of the dark to be able to accept fully an experience that's far from who you are. And all films tell you what to feel, what is just, what is a woman, what is a man, what it means to be this, what it means to be that. And in that sense, films either challenge the status quo and are called political, or they reinforce the status quo and the power that exists. And people don't tend to judge those films as carefully. But who we portray as the enemy, you know, who, when you open the door and you find a black doctor, female doctor, if you're surprised, then you need to see more black female doctors. And film can do that. Film can take a minority and reinforce very bad myths about that minority. And so as filmmakers, I think we have to tell true stories and fun stories and moving stories that are based in humanity. And I'm happy to be part of the community that does that.
Tengo una curiosidad. ¿Tú piensas que un actor, una actriz, debería tener un concepto de su trabajo? Es decir, hay muchas formas. Tú antes hablabas en la rueda de prensa comedia, hay muchas dramas, tragedias, hay muchas fórmulas diferentes para contar historias. ¿Tú no piensas que quizá cada una de ellas, aunque sea entretenimiento puro, tendrían que tener en algún momento de su narración un sentido didáctico con respecto a la gente, a las personas que van a verlo? Dejar una huella de enseñanza de algún tipo, una aportación.
Well, I think they always leave a footprint. That's kind of my point. Whether or not you think you're making a film that is political, you are telling people something that does leave a footprint. And so I think you have to be very careful. For instance, there was a whole period in filmmaking where it was considered very sexy for a man to take a woman, you know, and for the woman to go, no, 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 oh, okay. You know, kind of like, I'm saying no, but I really mean yes. And that's a very dangerous thing to romanticize. And it's taken a very long time for people to really define what consent means. Because there was a myth that when women say no, they actually mean yes in their eyes, you know, that sexy thing. No, no, oh, yes, okay, now I'm giving in. That's pretty dangerous to throw out there to young men that are trying to figure everything out, you know. So I think we've gone through different stages of what minority we choose to be the bad guys, for instance. Harry Belafonte was a dear friend of mine, and he said the first time that he saw a black person on screen was in Tarzan as a kid, and all the black people were stupid and primitive, and that was his idea of how black people were shown on screen. And now you have a whole bunch of terrorists that are of one kind, you know. Who will be the next terrorist? Who will be the next minority that is portrayed in film in a way that is so wrong? And I think as filmmakers, when you read something, you have to be aware of those cliches and those. You just have to be aware, you know, of what you're putting out there. But that doesn't have to be a political film with a message. but I like to be moved when I see a film. I really want someone to root for. I want someone that I want to get something. And if a film doesn't have that, it doesn't have to be. I did a film called White Palace, I don't know, with Jimmy Spader, I don't know what it was called here. But basically, her whole thing is just that he lies to her and is ashamed of her. And she finally, at the end, stands up for herself. And it's not a big deal. It's not like, you know, Thelma and Louise where you're shooting somebody. I mean, it's a small, but it's a big, big deal for that woman in that life. And it's a big deal for women a lot of times when you're, you know, that's a story that I've heard of personally, where you're with somebody and but they don't want you to meet their parents or they don't want you to meet their friends. You just have a lot of sex. So that's a story that you root for her to find herself and to find her to find her self-respect. And I think that's a huge victory in the context of that film. Did I answer any of the questions that we were just asking? I don't know.
Sí,
See,
sí,
did
sí.
I? Oh, good.
Sí. Quería hacerte una pregunta más y ya pasamos a los compañeros. ¿Qué cualidades o qué te gusta encontrar en un compañero actor o una compañera actriz a la hora de trabajar con él y con ella? ¿Qué necesitas tener con él?
Oh, there's nothing better than having a really good relationship on the set. And I do everything I can to try to make sure that we're having fun when we're filming, even if it's Lorenzo's Oil or something that's very sad. And that's why so many actors end up having affairs with other actors, because that's all you're meeting, first of all. And secondly of all, when someone shows up and they're prepared and they're sober and they're passionate and they're curious and they're ready to play. You can't really be playful when you're acting if you're not ready. You have to, be prepared, but then not have any idea what's going to happen. And for me, that's the most wonderful surprise. And I would love that in relationships too. Someone who's curious and brave, and it's like flying when you get opposite somebody, man or woman or child or dog, that can be on the same level, but then take you somewhere and you do something that you didn't anticipate. When something happens and you didn't know that you were going to cry, or you didn't know that that was going to be funny, but you're loose enough, but prepared enough to have those moments. That's, for me, the magic of film. And also, I love the crew. I'm very dependent. You can't have a good experience if you don't feel your crew is with you, and I try to involve them as much as possible too in those decisions. So you kind of form a family in a way. And when you find those people that are surprising and also fun and smart is really sexy for me. I really like smart people, men and women. That's great. That's a good answer, right?
Fantastic. Y por último, ¿qué significa ese pin que tienes aquí? Imagino que es una pregunta que se están haciendo muchos también de los que están con nosotros.
This is Artists for Peace and Justice, which was done in asking for a ceasefire 2 years ago. It's an organization that started in the United States, but I believe there are other people that I've seen wearing this pin. I think Javier Bardem might have worn it. And it's kind of our way of making an attempt not to normalize, not to allow what's happening in Gaza to be normalized in areas where you can't speak about it. You can at least ask for a ceasefire, and because no one is free until everyone is free.
Bueno, pues vamos a dar paso a las preguntas de las personas que están aquí acompañándonos esta tarde. Hay micrófonos por la sala y si alguien quiere ya empezar a preguntar, por aquí ya hay gente.
Hi, Susan.
Hi.
So, sorry because I'm shaking. I came all the way from Madrid. Clearly, my nervous system didn't. So my question will be, you grew up in a really Catholic environment, right? And so what do you think, which role do you think will make any of the childhood, of your childhood and nuns faint first?
Which role have I done that would make nuns faint?
Yeah, of your...
I've never been asked that before.
Yeah, I hope it's original.
Well, of course, I became an official nun after doing Dead Man Walking. Although all the women the nuns that I still am Sister Helen just married my son. I mean, she was at the wedding. She didn't marry him. She married them. So we're still very much in touch. And I don't know, it would be a toss-up between White Palace with all that sex and the Rocky Horror Show. That would be very confusing, I think. Maybe not as much now, but what was it, 30, 40 years ago? They definitely wouldn't have that. I don't think much about how nuns are going to react to my work, actually. But thanks for the question.
Hello, Susan. My name is Blanca, and I would like to ask you a question that maybe I have some ignorance, but do you think, I know many actors and many people in the business, in the acting business, are helping a lot, criticizing and making films about what is going to happen in our society, especially with the president that you have in your country. And my question is, do you think scriptwriters, directors are doing enough films in the four period that Trump has been the president in the first period, and now I think it's 1.5 years of a president? Do you think there are enough films that are really helping to get this person out of the world, the president?
It would be great if you could just make a film to get this person out of the world, but I think if that were true, it would have happened by now. I think that, there's so much censorship right now that really most information, I mean, we haven't even released the Epstein files yet, so we haven't released any films either. I think that I put my faith in independent media, in certain podcasts, and there are journalists who are actually investigating things, but it's not mainstream. So I think that if there's going to be change, by now, if there was a movement that depended on compassion, it would have happened. I mean, I don't think that the change is going to come about because people are caring about other people. I think what's going to happen is that there's so much financial abuse, and there's such a disparity such a gap between the rich and the poor, as there is everywhere. But people are starting to understand that we're very much supportive of Trump, that you know, we're sending billions of dollars to Israel, who has health care, has subsidized housing, has free education, and none of that exists in the United States. So I think that the amount of waste of money that's going on through this administration, while people are losing their homes and don't have money, and it's getting worse and worse and worse because of tariffs and all the other things that have happened, that will be possibly one of the things that causes a real rift. And then because people have cell phones and they're able to show what ICE is doing, for instance, that has been huge, because really the truth sayers are ordinary people that are carrying cell phones. And that has really affected the narration. Just like cell phones in Gaza, Palestine, have challenged the narration. It just doesn't hold anymore when you can see it, right? So I wish that films could make that much difference politically on a larger scale, but it's expensive to go to the movies. You know, these days, it's not cheap to go to the movies. People watch a lot of television. Occasionally something will get on there, but I think we have to keep trying. But, and I wish there were, I think that there's a real loss of journalism that is very, very disastrous in the United States. I don't know about what goes on in this country, but it's pretty much mainstream media, which is now owned by fewer and fewer people, Zionist people mostly. You know, if you're not young and online, you don't have a clue what's going on, because journalism has really, when you see how many journalists were killed in Gaza, and with no response from journalists in the United States, and not much from other places either, I think we need journalists. We need truth sayers. We need people, and it's not happening in the United States, really. The New York Times has to retract constantly and change things because they're just putting out stories that are given to them by the power structure, whatever it is. And that's a huge loss. When people don't have information, they can't make good decisions. And now we're at the time when people see something and they're like, I don't know if that's true. Is that AI? Or who said that? Or, you know, and that's very Orwellian, isn't it? When you see something and you're told that it's not what you see. So this is a whole new period in history of the world, I think. I don't know, I'm old enough to go back pretty far. I don't think it's ever been this much of a monopoly on information. That was a sad answer.
Hola. Hi,
Hola.
hola. Congratulations on the award. I'm going to do it in Spanish because of my English, sorry. Som treballadors del cinema i membres de la CNT, que és un sindicat històric anarquista a Espanya, que recentment ha obert una secció sindical a Barcelona. La pregunta és, a una indústria que premia l'art i la cultura, però que moltes vegades vulnera els drets dels treballadors, quin paper creus que haurien de tenir els sindicats avui en dia? I t'han portat un pin de la CNT com a obsequi, com a símbol de solidaritat, si el vols acceptar amb solidaritat als treballadors.
Which trade union are you from?
És CNT, Comissió Nacional dels Treballadors. It's an historic union here in Spain.
Which commission?
Comissió Nacional dels Treballadors.
So what kind of workers are in this commission?
Yeah, now workers are organized inside this union, but it's from the last 6 months.
Sorry, I don't understand what happened the last 6 months?
Te lo digo en castellano, no tiene traducción, ¿no? Vale, la CNT es un sindicato que tiene muchos años de historia anarquista en España y ahora dentro de este sindicato se ha organizado una sección de film workers, de trabajadores, y queríamos saber qué consejo nos darías ahora que estamos empezando a luchar por los derechos de los trabajadores en el audiovisual. Pues, ¿qué papel crees que tiene que tener el sindicato en el mundo del cine?
Well, I'm all about unions. I mean, I'm in a union as an actor, and we went on strike for a very long time. I don't know if we did such a good job at the end of the day, but I think unions are the answers. And one of the reasons that the United States is in trouble is because the unions have become weaker. And I think unions are very, very important. And probably the only thing that's going to actually save the United States would be a national strike. And I think when people have gone on strike, it has worked pretty effectively, but it's hard, you know, sometimes because of the economy, it's very difficult. But I believe in young people and I believe in unions. The nurses union just went on strike in the United States, and they thought they would cave, and they didn't cave. They were out there in the snow and the ice, and they just won. And they were asking for protection on their jobs and for sometimes better. Some of them didn't even have insurance themselves. You know, crazy in the United States that people don't have health insurance. So I'm a believer in, I don't know exactly what your situation is, but I think unions are very important, and you have to learn solidarity, and a lot can be accomplished through unions for sure.
Hello, good afternoon, Ms. Sarandon. My name is Charles. I will speak in English because I'm French with a bad Spanish. But I would like to know, from all the characters that you play, is there one that you carry or think of it every day, or that you remember? Like, I have to tell that Thelma and Louise is like my favorite movie ever. Before was Titanic, but then I discovered Thelma and Louise, and I'm just like, and the movie Stepmom was amazing. Like, I would like to know which character do you bring the most in your heart?
That is such a Sophie's Choice question. You want me to throw one of my babies away? I can't do that. You know, there's certain ones that I had a lot more to do with, like Dead Man Walking. I found the book and I helped get it together. So of course I'm very attached to that, but I have other, you know, great experiences on so many movies. So I don't know if there's one in particular. You know, I've started to go to Comic-Cons, and what's the gift? Do you know what Comic-Cons are? Yeah. The gift of Comic-Cons is that I've gotten to talk to people about that have seen my movies, but you never really do. You know, you do in the theater because you have a relationship, right? But in film, you have it's kind of like the difference between masturbation and making love, which I know this is going to be a quote. In film, it's just like getting one little moment right all by yourself. In theater, you actually have a relationship, for better or worse, with your audience, and so you have a relationship. So when I do Comic-Cons, I get these stories about how, we watch, you know, Little Women every Christmas with my family, or my mom and I, you know, we watched Stepmom, or, you know, I came out because of the Rocky Horror Show, or, you know, and that's been such a gift for me. It started out that I just needed money, but now it's such a gift, because when would I get a chance to know how films affect people? And little tiny things, like there's, you know, James and the Giant Peach. I don't know why, but it's incredibly popular with kids on the spectrum. I never would have had these conversations. So I think of some films that I really love that never got a chance to be seen, really, because if they're if they're little films, the studio can dump them. They don't really give them what they should have. So I don't know how to answer that question, because I'm just happy when people connect with them, and it means so much. And in my business, things are considered a success if they make 300 times what they cost, which isn't my idea of success, right? So when I hear these stories of how people within their families had conversations about things, and that's what films should do. You know, it's great if you do a film that afterwards, when you go out, people can argue about it or discuss it, or, you know, it leads to some kind of discussion. Because I don't think films should tell you what you need to believe, but I think they should challenge your perspective, or give you information, or move you, or expose some part of you that you haven't felt before. And I'm so happy that, you know, a lot of the films I've done that are, I think they're like, some of them are like 50 years old. It's crazy when I'm just 50 myself. I don't understand how that could be. But they've been around a long time. And, you know, that blows my mind, really, that people, there's now going to be this incredible production of the Rocky Horror Show on Broadway this year, with some very, very interesting cast members, including a friend of mine from Blue Beetle. Harvey is playing Meatloaf's part. So, you know, how lucky am I that so many people have stories about something that I've done as my job. It's so cool.
Miss Sarandon, sorry. I want to thank you for your work, for all the things that you make us feel, for proving that a woman has a lot of things to say besides I'm a mom or a grandma. Thank you, because you are one of the reasons that I became a screenwriter. And I want to ask you, what is
Do you have
the
a
next...
script? Are you going to tell me you have a script for me now?
Well, I want to ask you, what character do you want? I will write it for you.
Deal. Okay.
Thank you.
Bien, parece que el tiempo se nos va terminando. Entonces tenemos hasta aquí el encuentro. Muchísimas gracias a todas. Hay gente que quiere una última.
I think we should do two more.
Sí, un par de ellas.
more.
Adelante. Adelante.
Because we used up so much time with mics that weren't working, so we need to do at least two more.
Hi. I want to ask you, what advice will you give to a young actress starting out today or trying? Because I'm studying for being an actress, so if you can give me some advice.
Well, I can, although I never studied acting, so I'm a bad example. I never took acting classes. I would say, know yourself and what is so special about you that no one else has. Your authenticity will be very valuable, not only in this business, but as you go on. If you can find a way to have fun and to see each audition, which are so painful, as an exploration and not something that you have to win, but just an opportunity to go in and, you know, and learn something, because that is how you learn. And it is difficult constantly to be rejected, and learn to pack. It's very important to pack, know how to get all your things in a suitcase. And do your parents support you?
I think so, yeah.
You think so? Good. Well, any job you have to get to support yourself, you can use as an actor. That's the great thing about actors. You know, I've done lots of different jobs, and I mean, so much more interesting than, you know, being a dental hygienist or something. You get to do all kinds of things, and it counts. But have a good time. I think one of the reasons that I was successful was because I really didn't care that much in the beginning. I just thought, oh, this is fun. And I think that if you're really desperate, unless you're going up for a completely psychotic part, I think that if you can go in already feeling like you've won because you know who you are, and you're very young, so you probably don't know that yet, but you will. I think that's a big advantage. You know, don't try to be like anybody else. Just find the humanity in whatever is given to you, and then let it go. Good luck. Good luck to you.
Okay. Hola. Ay, estoy súper nerviosa. Ok, mi inglés no es muy malo, pero te lo voy a decir en español.
My Spanish is non-existent, so.
Ok, nunca sería actriz. Mi pregunta es más sobre activismo. Quisiera saber si podrías darme algún consejo o algún mensaje que quieras dar a las personas que estamos intentando luchar por un mundo mejor con Gaza, con México, con Estados Unidos. Cómo encontrar la manera de no desanimarte, de animar a otros a unirse y no desanimarte porque piensas que solo somos unos pocos. Y no sé, o sea, algo que puedas transmitir para los demás.
Well, first of all, I think that you can't really force people to take a chance. I would never, though it's disappointing, I would never try to force someone to be an activist of any kind. And I think you have to start small. You know, do what you, first of all, be educated. If you're going to talk about a subject, you have to really understand what's going on. And the first step is asking questions. No one can fault you for saying, I just don't understand. How is this possible? Blah, blah, blah. I just don't, isn't it true that this, then how can that be true? And if you frame it that way, you don't have to lecture to people. You don't have to be the one that's the expert in anything but your own life. And if there's something that's you feel in your heart is not honorable, is not right, you can find like-minded people to just start in the smallest ways. And I know that the things that I do in my community in New York, I run into the same people all the time. The same people down at Ground Zero at 9/11 giving out food, who are giving out food in the mission on Sundays when I do it. There are people, you know, and the first thing you can do is just do what you can do. And it might feel like it's just a small thing, but just do it well. You don't have to take on everything. You know, I've been arrested a lot of times. I've never been hurt while I've been protesting. But sometimes now it happens, so you can't ask somebody to put themselves in that situation unless they really are willing to do it. It's not your responsibility. Just find the people that are like-minded and start building your community that way. And if you're someone who doesn't feel they can put their body on the line, then you can write letters. You can talk about the situation with your grandmother. You can bring up things with your circle of friends. Maybe there's information that they don't have. You know, you don't have to go out into the world and it is discouraging, but there have always been people throughout history who have done the right thing. Always.
Acabamos. Finish. Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos por haber venido. Perdón, hay aquí una persona que ya lleva la mano levantada desde hace media hora y ya me da apuro.
Menos mal, Dios santo. Solo quería decirte que me emociona verte. Me emociona verte porque te admiro muchísimo. Eres una mujer espléndida. Gracias por todo lo que estás haciendo, por todos nosotros. Eres admirable. Me he sentado, el cine lo amo, es mi pasión. Cuando te sientas en una butaca oscura, tú me has llevado con todos tus personajes a lo más íntimo de mi ser y a dar todo de mí. Quiero decirte que gracias, es muy emocionante verte y gracias, y sobre todo, gracias por cuidar a los latinos en tu país, que hemos sufrido mucho, hemos sufrido dictadura. Han matado mucha gente, yo soy chilena. Han matado mucha gente sin ninguna razón. Te agradezco, cuídanos. Siempre pagamos los latinos, siempre pagamos la cuenta. Gracias, mil gracias por lo que haces. Te admiro.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you. Wow, thanks for taking that one. That was amazing. Thank you so much. That was so heartfelt, and my love goes out to you too. I can tell how committed you are, and I love you for that. Thank you.
Bueno, pues vamos a cerrar ya la tarde. Queremos dar las gracias a la ciudad de Barcelona, sobre todo por la acogida tan maravillosa que está teniendo con todo el equipo de la Academia y con todos nosotros. Y también, pues nada, convocaros a muchos de los que estáis aquí, porque mañana nos veremos en la entrega de premios y allí podremos disfrutar de nuevo de Usan recogiendo su Goya Internacional, con el que el cine español le honra y le agradece toda una vida dedicada a nuestro oficio. Muchísimas gracias.